ask everyone to remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Military personnel in uniform should stand at attention. Civilians should place their right hand over their heart. Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I am Major Dawn Grant, your narrator for today's event. On behalf of Colonel Killian and the 711th Human Performance Wing, I would like to thank you and welcome you to Colonel Killian's retirement ceremony. It is my distinct honor and privilege to welcome all guests to Wright Patterson Air Force Base. At this time, please ensure all electronic devices are turned off or silenced until the completion of the ceremony. Today's event will be a simple affair, but still grand, in that we gather to celebrate the career and accomplishments of Colonel Jacqueline Killian as she retires from active duty after more than 31 years of service. The presiding official for today's ceremony will be Colonel Nicole Armitage, United States Air Force retired, Women Veterans Program Manager, Dayton VA Medical Center. Today, the United States Air Force Material Command, Air Force Research Laboratory, 711th Human Performance Wing pays special tribute to the retirement of Colonel Jacqueline Killian. We conduct retirement ceremonies for two reasons. First, of course, is to bring closure to a long and distinguished career in service to our country. Secondly, for those who remain and continue the Air Force mission to honor the history and traditions of our Air Force. This afternoon, we will witness the final stage of Colonel Killian's military career. However, just as this is the end of one phase of her career, it is the beginning of another. So today's gathering also gives us the opportunity to wish her every success in the future as she looks forward to new challenges and rewards. I now have the pleasure of introducing Colonel Killian's distinguished visitors joining us today. We'd like to introduce our 711th Human Performance Wing distinguished guests. Dr. Gaurav Sharma, Chief Scientist, 711th Human Performance Wing. Colonel Kathy Grimm, Chief Nurse, United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine. Dean Melanie Lazarus, United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine. Lieutenant Colonel Clinton Naraki, Group Administrator, United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine. Colonel Rochelle Hartsey, 88th Medical Group Commander, Inpatient Operations Squadron. Colonel Jeanette Frantel, 88th Medical Group, Chief Nurse. Colonel Cynthia Washington, IMA to Senior Nurse Scientist, United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine. Colonel Susan Dukes, United States Air Force retired, Senior Nurse Scientist. Colonel Tammy Averett Brower, Senior Health Scientist. And to all other distinguished visitors and friends who are here to celebrate Colonel Jackie Killian's retirement, welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise for the arrival of the official party and the playing of the national anthem. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the invocation by Colonel Tammy Averitt Brower, United States Air Force, retired.
Thank you. Please join with me in a moment of prayer or contemplation as your faith tradition allows. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the decades of service and the gift of Colonel Jackie Killian, nurse, scientist, wingman, leader, warrior, American airman. She answered her nation's call. Dear Lord, you've been an important, steady rock for Jackie as she spent many years separated from her beloved family, pursuing her PhD and doing the research to improve care for our service members. She has been faithful to a proud legacy of both science and compassion. Thank you for her years of caring and commitment. She has not faltered in all these years, and she has not failed. God of heaven, you create all things, including laughter and light. And God, you gave us both in Jackie. As noted in Proverbs 17, a merry heart doeth good like a medicine. And in Psalms 98, make a joyful noise to the Lord, all the earth. Break into joyous song and sing praises. And again in Psalm 126, our mouths were filled with laughter, our tongues with songs of joy. Then it was said among the nations, the Lord has done great things for them. Thank you, Lord, for making Jackie a vessel for these gifts, these many years of military service, and we pray she will continue to be that vessel going forward. And Lord, as you said, well done, good and faithful servant. Father, as the Air Force hymn pleads, Lord, guard and guide those who fly, uphold them with thy saving grace. Please guard, guide, and uphold Colonel Killian during this transition, and bless her and her family in the years ahead. We ask this in your holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Colonel Mabee, United States Air Force, retired, for that lovely invocation. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. It is my pleasure to present the presiding official for today's ceremony, Colonel Nicole Armitage.
Good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and friends. I am honored to be here to help celebrate Colonel Jackie Killian and her 31 years of service to our country. It is my pleasure to share a little bit of her story. As you will hear, the overarching theme of this story is one of personal relationships and selfless service, and always with a positive attitude. It seems to me that Jackie is someone who approaches everything in terms of relationships with other people. Most importantly, of course, are her relationships with her family, but also everyone that she works with, or really everyone that she encounters. She is always striving to make things better for people. In fact, seems to be driven by this. This moral compass, if you will, has served her well in her career, not only in her performance and progression, but in getting through and in fact excelling through some really difficult challenges. I have had the good fortune to get to know Jackie Killian through our connection as neuroscientists. The neuroscientist community is pretty small. If you're a neuroscientist, you probably know all the other neuroscientists. If you're not a neuroscientist, you may not have encountered one. So I think I first met Jackie at a tri-service nursing, I gotta keep my hands to myself. At a tri-service nursing research course, or the TSNRP course. And I remember very distinctly one morning that we were going to have an opportunity to experience a laughter yoga session. And so guess who was leading that laughter yoga session? And as probably most of you know, this was the subject of her dissertation. And if I had known her before she had started the PhD program, it would not have been a surprise to me at all that she gravitated towards laughter yoga as the topic of her dissertation. In any case, there we were, all standing around in a circle to start the day. And she just comes in and leads the group. And I would say I was probably not the only skeptical one there, okay? These were mostly military nurses who were scientists or evidence-based practice experts, and so really skepticism was just part of our nature. But she took over, that didn't faze her at all. She led us through this laughter yoga session, and guess what? We all left smiling. We all left ready to start the day. And I bet we all had a much better day because of it. So what I see Colonel Jackie Killian is somebody who just exudes positive aptitude. And this just permeates to everybody around her. And you can't help but be uplifted when you're in her presence. And I believe that this really has served her well and the Air Force well throughout her career. I believe that this has made us all better people and doing better in our mission. And her OPRs are chock full of this. In addition to things like promote now, she's going to be the next leader, squadron commander now, et cetera, there are things like A+ attitude, up to the positivity, boosted morale and productivity, set the tone for troop morale. If you've worked with her and know her, you can see exactly how this happens. So when I asked Colonel Killian first, I wanted to hear a little bit about her story to prepare for this retirement ceremony. The first things that came out of her mouth was, family is very important to me. And that didn't surprise me at all, because when I have seen her, she's always talking about her family, or FaceTiming with them, or laughing with them, or doing all of these things. So I can understand how challenging some of her assignments have been when she's had to be separated from her family. Her military career, I don't think, can be separated from the fact that she's a daughter, a spouse, a mother, and now a grandmother. And as I understand, Colonel Kelly, you met your husband while you were in college in an ROTC scholarship, planning to join the Army, and which she did.
I did.
For 4 years in the NICU, the neonatal ICU, and you had 2 children during that assignment, your first 2 children. And so, and then from there, or during that time, her husband got accepted for physical therapy school. And so, what happened? Colonel Killian had a break in service so she could support her husband so he could get through physical therapy school. And then working nights and taking on all kinds of different kinds of jobs, etc. And then your husband went into the Air Force. Well, lucky us, okay? So, but he was in the Air Force and bringing her along, and went to Malmstrom, and where Colonel Killian was working as a nurse. And then when your husband was going to get sent to Lodges Field, she was so good that the chief nurse said, "Come active duty into the Air Force. I will make it happen so you can have a joint assignment at little tiny Lodges Field."
Wow.
You know somebody is special when somebody goes up to bat for you like that. And so off they went to Lodges Field, bypassed COT, commissioned officer training, went straight into the Air Force and had to learn Air Force when you knew Army. That was probably very challenging. And then proceeded on your Air Force career. And aren't we lucky that that chief nurse talked you into coming into the Air Force? So after that, I think you went to Keesler. And guess what happened to Keesler while she was there? Hurricane Katrina. And I had the fortune not to be at Keesler during Hurricane Katrina. I only heard stories. But you now have 3 children, and you're in lockdown at the medical group in waterlogged Keesler. And I do not know how you survived with sleeping on the floor for weeks. I had to have some young children when I was in Okinawa and be locked down for 3 days without power during a typhoon. And I barely kept my children from, I don't know what they would have done. And in fact, I think you lost a child at some point in time. So, but I can imagine that during that very difficult time, Colonel Killian was there boosting everybody's morale and keeping everybody together. And I don't know, but I bet if we found people that were there, they would say, yep, she kept us up and going and kept the morale high, because that's just what she does. So then after Kiesler, your husband got assigned to Langley, is that right? And then she had an opportunity to get an AFA assignment to get your master's degree, which was awesome. On the way to the PhD, see how that progression works. And then after that, got assigned to Nellis. And then at Nellis, her spouse was, apparently the Air Force didn't think they needed physical therapists or something, and so he separated from the Air Force. You would think that now that they were no longer dual military, that would be the end of separations. But it seems that was just the beginning. And so during that assignment, you got deployed to the UAE, and then found out that you got selected for the PhD program. And you would think that getting an AFA assignment for a PhD, which I can attest was like one of the best assignments of my life, that would mean no family separations. Nope. Just when she thought she could stay there in the Las Vegas area and go to UNLV, the Air Force said, well, you need to go to the Uniformed Services of University in Bethesda. And after a 2-day interview, of course they accepted her at USU. I mean, really, that was a question. But that really wasn't the best thing for her family at the time. 3-year AFA assignment, geographically separated from her family. This is the people person whose family is so important to her. And then, first assignment as a neuroscientist in San Antonio at the 59th, and another year of separation. But happily, at least your spouse joined you at that point in time. And then spending 5 years at the 59th, and still separated from children, but they were getting to be adults. And your husband was there. Now, during this time when she was at the 59th, I, at some point, came here to Wright, Patterson. And we had a Center for Clinical Inquiry meeting in, I don't remember where it was, but I ran into Colonel Killian, and I was thinking, I knew I was going to retire. And I was thinking, oh, maybe she could be coming here. And so I mentioned that to her, said, hey, if you want to come to Ohio, it is the first time I ever saw the smile run away from her face. It was the first time, and I thought, oh no, I hope she doesn't get assigned here. Of course she got assigned here. And I now understand why the smile ran away from her face, because that meant another possible separation from her family. But she came here, and guess what? She came here in the time of COVID. That's when I retired, 2020, okay, right in the middle of COVID. And guess what she came to? She came to meeting after meeting after meeting of faceless voices. Because by then we were enough into COVID that people stopped turning off their video, plus it sucked up the bandwidth. So she had to acclimate to this new role, not knowing had seen anybody, just hearing these voices and trying to keep track. She's a people person. She's the one that's smiling at everybody and lifting them up. So it's been very challenging, and I can imagine. And then geographically separated on top of that. But did she complain? Nope, not one bit. She just kept going on and getting through the challenge, and with her positive attitude and a smile on her face, and mentored one of our new nurse scientists, Lieutenant Colonel Bedford, and all along did it with a smile on her face. And in fact, she wanted to have this retirement ceremony here so she could recognize the nurse scientist community, so that could be recognized. So again, trying to uplift everybody else around her. So, after 31 years, you have made it to a well-deserved retirement, and now you get to choose where you want to go. and you can stay with your family, and you can start the next chapter of your life. But I know that you are still a part of the community. I know we haven't heard the last of you, and at the very least, I know you'll be cheering us all on, but I think you'll be doing more than that. I think you'll continue to be mentoring and researching and connecting with people and contributing to the greater good. So, congratulations.
Thank you, Colonel Armitage. Colonel Killian, please take your place at center stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the medal presentation. Attention to orders. Colonel Jackie Killian distinguished herself in the performance of outstanding service to the United States while assigned to the United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine. During this period, while assigned as Chief Nurse Scientist, Colonel Killian flawlessly led the Air Force coronavirus pool testing effort, which enabled 5 national research laboratories to test 30,000 personnel for pandemic population health surveillance. As the Senior Science Advisor of the Aeromedical Science Advisory Council, she assessed over 50 research proposals, guided investigators, and validated $20 million in funding. Furthermore, she built collaborative partnerships as lead for the Air Force Research Laboratory's Military Medicine Business Scientific Meeting, linking 174 stakeholders and driving innovative medical solutions. Additionally, as principal investigator for multiple studies, her mentorship led research teams dedicated to improving the quality of life for military healthcare personnel while also guiding the next generation of nursing research. Finally, as Air Force Medical Service Centers for Clinical Inquiry Director, she fostered evidence-based practice initiatives, ensuring high reliability standards were met across 76 military treatment facilities. Her efforts culminated in her receiving the Tri-Service Nursing Research Program Scientific Mentorship Award for 2021. The singularly distinctive accomplishments of Colonel Killian culminate a distinguished career in the service of her country and reflect great credit upon herself and the United States Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Armitage will now proceed with the ceremony of retirement from the United States Armed Forces.
Publish the order.
Attention to orders. Department of the Air Force, Special Order Number AL-000361. Under the provisions of Air Force Instruction 36-3203, Colonel Killian is relieved from active duty at the United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine, 711th Human Performance Wing, Wright, Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, retired effective 1 July 2022, in the grade of Colonel by order of the Secretary of the Air Force. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated for the remaining presentations. Colonel Armitage will now present Colonel Killian with her certificate of retirement. It reads, Certificate of Retirement from the Armed Forces of the United States of America. To all who shall see presents. Greetings. This is to certify that Colonel Jacqueline Marie Killian, having served faithfully and honorably, was retired from the United States Air Force on the first day of July 2022. Signed, Major General Heather L. Pringle. At this time, Colonel Armitage will present Colonel Killian with a certificate of appreciation from President Joseph R. Biden. The certificate reads, Certificate of Appreciation for Service in the Armed Forces of the United States of America, Colonel Jacqueline Marie Killian. I extend my personal gratitude and sincere appreciation of a grateful nation to you for your patriotic service to our country. Your bravery and dedication in our armed forces helped protect your fellow Americans during a critical moment in our history and contributed to a world of greater security and growing prosperity. Your devotion to duty, honor, and country, in keeping with the long traditions of the finest military in the world, embody the American ideal of selfless service. Our nation owes you an incredible debt. Your commitment and example you set will inspire future generations to serve with pride, and to keep our country secure. You represent the best of our nation, and I join our fellow Americans in saluting you, your honorable service. I wish you happiness and success in your next chapter. Signed, J.R. Biden, Commander-in-Chief. At this time, Colonel Armitage will present Colonel Killian with a certificate of appreciation from the Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. The certificate reads, I am proud to join your friends and family in congratulating you on your retirement from the United States Air Force, Colonel Jacqueline Marie Killian. The achievements and contributions you have made throughout your career are indicative of the core values of our great service. Your retirement is well deserved, but your selfless contributions will be sorely missed. On behalf of all airmen, thank you for your faithful and devoted service to our nation. As this chapter in your life closes, a new one begins. I hope the years ahead are filled with more great memories and continued success. Signed, Joanne S. Bass, Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force. At this time, Colonel Armitage will present Colonel Killian with a letter of appreciation from the Chief of the Air Force Nurse Corps. The letter reads, Dear Colonel Killian, on behalf of the men and women of the Air Force Medical Service and the total nursing force, I would like to extend heartfelt congratulations on the occasion of your retirement. It is with great admiration that we honor this significant event. From your initial service as a neonatal intensive care Army nurse to your first Air Force assignment as a nurse manager, flight medicine at the 65th Medical Group, Lodges Air Base, Azores, and your final assignment as Senior Science Advisor, United States Air Force School of Aerospace Medicine, 711th Human Performance Wing at Wright, Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, you have been instrumental as an educator, scientist, mentor, and leader. Your tireless dedication and countless contributions greatly influenced the delivery of quality health care both in garrison and in the deployed setting. Throughout your service, you have been an exemplary Nurse Corps officer whose passion has been to provide exceptional care and compassion to our heroes past, present, and future, and to bring up the next generation of nurses to do the same. Jackie, as you retire, know that your flight path in the Air Force has been a 31-year career that positively impacted the mission and lives of thousands of men and women who had the honor of serving with you. Thank you for the sacrifices and contributions you and your family made while serving our great nation. Best wishes and Godspeed as you close this chapter and begin the next chapter along life's journey. Signed, sincerely, Brigadier General Janine M. Ryder, Chief, United States Air Force Nurse Corps. Colonel Armitage will now pin on Colonel Killian's retirement pin. At this time, we have some special gifts to present Colonel Killian. Will Lieutenant Colonel Bedford come forward?
Colonel Killian, it's hard to stand up here right now. I'm here representing the Wright Patterson Nurse Scientist community, and we say congratulations on 31 years of service, but more than that, thank you for your mentorship, coaching, and your leadership that has truly been at every single level within the Air Force and the Tri-Service. You will always be a part of our community. I look forward to continuing to work with you, and we wish you nothing but the best in everything that you do. So thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Bedford. Could Dean Lazarus please come forward?
Colonel Killian, congratulations, first of all. I'm going to do a small bit of talking because I do have a few things to say. I'm the first civilian dean of USF-SAM, and I really credit 3 women with giving me my first introduction to the Air Force, which happened right in the middle of COVID. 2 are in this room today, as a matter of fact, both neuroscientists. That's a coincidence. Colonel Killian is one of those people. As it was said already, she is a delightful person, always has a smile, and for me, she was always a very friendly voice in the ether, you know, of virtual teleworking. And then once we were in person last year, was always willing to give me a hand on the acronyms, or when we always sat together, I feel like in ceremonies, and I'd elbow her, what the heck's going on, and she was always more than willing to give me the information that I needed to be successful. So I am very grateful for her, and you will be incredibly missed. So the gift that I have for you today is a small one, but has great meaning to me. This is the Dean's Challenge Coin, and I know that challenge coins are a dime a dozen, but I'm actually very stingy with mine. Since I'm not Air Force, when I give one of these, it really means something. And this, for me, symbolizes excellence in making sure that our students have everything that they need, excellence in academic rigor in particular, which is what you have brought to our school. So thank you. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Lazarus. Could Lieutenant Colonel Meraki, USF-SAM Administrator, please come forward?
You've probably heard this many times already, but just congratulations on such a well-deserved retirement after so many years. I know Colonel Woodard would love to be here, but I have the honor to represent him and our executive staff for USF-SAM to present you with this esteemed gift. It's a heritage-based poster that has been turned into a portrait of sorts, and all the executive staff have signed the back, wishing you well. And from a personal perspective, similar to Dean Lazarus, I arrived here also in the midst of COVID and heard this voice that I was so excited to meet at one day and helped me with many things, many questions as I was new to USF-SAM. Very much used to health facilities or being in a facility at MTF, not so much a research or school setting. So it was quite a change for me, and filling that void and that gap was very helpful. And even up until very recently, she's been helping me on some other hiring issues that we need to work through as well. So. And I can take this, we put this over here.
Let's take a picture.
Oh, yes.
Thank you. And go Gators.
Go Gators.
He's a UF alum also.
Thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Meraki. Could Dr. Sharma, Chief Scientist for 711 Human Performance Wing, please come forward?
Thank you. I was not prepared. I did not know I had to do this. This is the first time and my first retirement ceremony, but I have a few things to say about Jackie. I first came to know her when I stepped into the Chief Scientist's office back in August in the acting role. And it was a difficult time. We had pretty much all new faces in the office. And I was relatively new to the Air Force as well, and to the government, joined in the middle of pandemic. So Jackie was the constant in our office there, and everything that I heard today about her, about her dedication to mission, I experienced it firsthand. About how family is important to you, I experienced it, and about your mentorship, right? Many times I was looking at Jackie just to, like, what does it mean? What are these acronyms? Who are these people that I'm talking to? What do they want from us? A lot of the time, right? Jackie was that constant mentorship, how she was mentoring Lieutenant Colonel Bedford was a perfect example. Family, I think you're the only one whose extended family I have met. I met your parents. I've heard your grandkids on the Zoom call sometimes. I remember those. everything is so true. And again, I think I can say that Jackie has been on, ever since you left the office and moved to Vegas, you didn't step away from your responsibilities and duties, right? You were there, she was there on all calls that we had. In fact, just earlier this week, I believe Jackie called onto a Teams meeting when conveniently we all had decided to cancel that. And Jackie texting, where are you guys? So that speaks volume to her dedication. And we are so glad that even though she is moving to Vegas, she will hopefully not be spending too much time gambling, and that she has taken up a responsibility at the university, right? So again, being true to the mission, mentoring the next generation of these young people and scientists and researchers, and really I hope that what you will be doing other than education is teaching them leadership, because that's what I saw in you. And again, thank you for everything that you did for my office, for the wing, for the country. It's been great having you, in my team, and I wish you all the best for your future adventures.
Thank you, Dr. Sarah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Are there any others wishing to come forward?
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to present Colonel Retired Jackie Killian.
I was so afraid Colonel Becker was going to make me cry. I'm so glad she didn't. So, thank you all so much for being here today. It means worlds to me, the world to me, to have so many here. And each and every person here has been special to me at some point in my career, and has been part of my family here at Wright Patterson. Just thank you for helping me. I wrote down some notes because I've been so frazzled this week. I was like, I better write it down because I don't want to forget anything. Just thank you for helping me to commemorate my final duty station, serving this great nation. As I listened to Nicole talk and listened to Major Grant as she went through the script for the ceremony, I couldn't help but think of all the people in my life that have supported, cheered, helped me, and believed in me so much that I was able to accomplish everything that I have during my nursing career. My parents, my husband, my family, my colleagues, my leaders, my peers, and especially my small but mighty nurse scientist community. During my time, we've had 11 nurse scientists in the Air Force, but sadly this year we're losing 4, so it's going to really bring us down to almost half strength, which is quite significant. I think last numbers I saw, I think there's approximately, and I could have this wrong from Parental, but I think there were approximately like 2,800 or close to 3,000 nurses in the inventory for the Air Force. So our nurse scientists make up 0.003% of that. So the active duty nurse scientist is like a unicorn. Most don't comprehend exactly what it is that we do or how we do it. We're trained to conduct research for the Nurse Corps while also fulfilling military leadership roles supporting our assigned unit, wherever that might be. Also furthering the creation of new nursing science and supporting implementation science in the form of evidence-based practice through our Centers for Clinical Inquiry structure. So we're very fortunate here at Wright Patterson that our nurse scientists work in collaboration with the nurses over at the 88th Medical Group. We attend their EVP council meetings and try to mentor and support all the evidence-based practice or implementation science that is actually happening over at the 88th. We're also very fortunate to have a few elite civilian nurse scientists within our community. And I really think that they're the backbone of our community here at the 711th and down at the 59th. We have Dr. Darcy Mortimer, Dr. Melissa Wilson, soon to be Dr. A.B., right? And Dr. Sheila Savell down at the 59th. They really are kind of the backbone and help those of us that are in uniform. It's incumbent upon all of us as leaders to support, nurture, and create an environment that'll foster continued growth of the nurse scientists within the organization. It would be a travesty for this extremely valuable asset to be wasted. I'm extremely proud of the science that I've been able to conduct in my 7 years as a military nurse scientist, and I'm also proud of all the work that I see our community contributing to military health science. I would be remiss if I did not personally thank those that are here today that have helped to set me up for success. So I'd like to first start off with my colleagues in the Chief Scientist's office. Dr. Sharma, Dr. Zellick, Dr. Pryor, and Tammy Robbins, and then previously working with Dr. Knight and Dr. Starville. It really was a pleasure to be here in the 711 Chief Scientist's office. You're truly great people, also supportive of one another, and truly dedicated to the mission. For me, it was a very positive and mind-broadening experience. I was exposed to a lot of different kinds of science that I had never been exposed to. I always felt like a valued member of the team, and I thank you for that. I appreciate the consistent communication and positive attitude and the sense of humor that we all seem to share, which made for a wonderful and supportive working environment. Thank you all for being so encouraging as I transition from the military to civilian life. I would also like to thank my USAF-SAM leadership and staff for also being extremely supportive during my time here at Wright. Again, I moved here during COVID, so things were crazy. Just different. They were so different, and we were all trying to navigate that. But everybody was just so kind. And although Colonel Woodard couldn't be here, I know because of travel, I really have to thank him for his open door and continual support through my 2 years here. It was also wonderful to have a boss that exemplifies servant leadership, because I really think he does that. I'd like to thank Mr. DeFelice, Dean Lazarus, Colonel Grimm, who took all my calls, answered all my questions when it comes to the Nurse Corps. Lieutenant Colonel Naraki, pleasure working with you as well. Major Geiser, Major Smith, and Mindy Wright, always there for assistance and support, again, throughout my time here. I learned a great deal as part of USASM working in the AMSAC and reviewing those studies and analysis proposals, very different than what I had seen before. Also working with Dr. Clarice Starr, who couldn't be here today because they went to Disney World. But she really was a subject matter expert on that Air Force pool testing effort, where we leveraged, it was 5 Air Force research labs to do that. And it really provided, it was kind of a proof of concept effort, but it yielded many lessons learned that will hopefully help us to enable a more efficient and effective response in the future should we have a pandemic of this or another population health crisis. And now I'd like to thank the Dream Team. Thank you, Colonel Armitage, for officiating today. I know it's a lot of work to be the official, and so I really appreciate you officiating today. You did a really great job capturing my life story, my career as a military officer, as a nurse, but especially as a nurse scientist. I think we save the best for last, and so I think that these leadership roles that we get to do at the very end of our career, they're really special. They open a lot of doors that we didn't realize were closed before, I'd like to thank you for your mentorship and guidance. You were really, you're a seasoned senior nurse scientist, and when I got here in the midst of COVID, you took the time to answer my questions, to really set me up for success, to show me everything that you could before you walked out the door, and I cannot thank you enough for that, because I really feel like you set me up for success. So I appreciate that, and I really appreciate your continued friendship. I'd like to thank Lieutenant Colonel Teresa Bedford. She just pinned on Lieutenant Colonel the 1st of June. So let's give her a round of applause. Promotion. That's a big deal. Thanks so much, Teresa, for taking on the job of Project Officer for the ceremony. I know it's a lot of work, but you show incredible work ethic and leadership. And you've shown that your entire 2 years that we've worked together here at the 711th as the 2 military nurse scientists in that part of the organization. Teresa really did a phenomenal job she joined 3 of my research projects, and she assisted the research teams in helping us write reports, preparing presentations, manuscripts, with IRB submissions, and so much more. She really was a voice on the team, which is important and an important part of her development as a nurse scientist. Teresa also has been the lead for the Nurse Corps Clinical Inquiry Fellowship, where she's guided Major Dawn Grant, ensuring a successful completion of all the requirements, mentoring her through abstract submission process where she got selected, and then preparing that presentation of her EVP project, the Tri-Service Nursing Research Program, Research and Evidence-Based Practice course. And then also helping her prepare briefs for other leadership in the Nurse Corps, Colonel Frenzel included. So thank you, Colonel Bedford, for being so wonderful and incredible to work with, for taking the lead on the Wright Patterson C2I as the sole nurse scientist here at Wright Patterson in uniform now that I'm retiring. I know General Ryder sincerely appreciates our continued support of this function for the Nurse Corps and for the AFMS. And thanks for all you're doing and all you will do for nursing science and for the 7-11. Colonel Everett Brower, AB, thank you so much for giving the invocation today for the ceremony. You really highlighted the importance of faith, not only in my life, but in our daily lives. I so appreciate your wisdom and guidance since I've arrived here, and even before I arrived here, even when I was at 59, your voice on the calls you always had the most intelligent and the most insightful things to say. I look forward to celebrating with you when you finish your program at USU. That's going to be a big day. Lieutenant James Hanna, thank you so much. This young man is one of the nurses assigned to the 88th Medical Group. He's on the Medical Surgical Unit, and he kindly volunteered to act as proffer for today's ceremony. I really appreciate you taking the time to spend with us and to support my ceremony. I'd also like to take a moment to thank the other 7-11th nurse scientists in our midst. Colonel Sue Dukes, recently retired Air Force nurse scientist here at East Sam, and she was the deputy to Dean Lazarus. Sue, you too have been a great touchstone and mentor for me. Thank you for always taking time to answer my questions, for providing sage advice. Also, Dr. Melissa Wilson and Dr. Darcy Mortimer. I would like to thank them for their warm welcome when I first arrived here in Ohio as well. They actually met me for tacos and really made me feel at home. I think you were there too, Amy. And they are continuing to do very inspiring work and contributions to science, focusing on moral injury, resilience, and en route care. I know that both of them have moved on to other areas in the 7-11th outside of RHB, but I know that they will continue to do stellar research no matter which section or department they're working in. Overall, if I could do it all again, I would do it all exactly the same way. Even with my separations from my family, there were always silver linings or small nuggets of gold that happened as a result of those separations. My children were more independent. They sought and were able to have their own successes. I tended to be a little bit of a helicopter mom. So I think, it probably served them very well. I would still travel home a lot, so I have a lot of Southwest smiles. I really loved my time as a military nurse. And my family enjoyed it too. We had many adventures due to our service to this great nation. And like I said, I wouldn't change anything. Being separated though from my family these last 3 assignments made me realize that it's time for me to return home, to take care of my own and be present for the growth of my 3 grandchildren, because they're growing like weeds. So I have just a few gifts that I'd like to present. Colonel Armitage, if you could step forward. Colonel Bedford, if you join us. Major Grant and Colonel Aby, if you could come forward.
Okay.
I'm very patriotic. There we go. Just a little walking music. Okay. So these are just small little tokens, but I would like to take a picture with you, if you don't mind, because I know that putting a ceremony like this together takes a great deal of work, a lot of communication. We've had several meetings. Okay, I'll get in the middle. Thank you. So thank you all for making this ceremony so special. You each put your own touch on it, and I cannot thank you enough. So these are just small tokens, and we'll open and talk about it later. Okay?
Thank you.
All right. So thank you again for being here to help celebrate my retirement.
Ladies and gentlemen, the men and women of the United States Air Force are proud to have served with Colonel Killian and assure her she will always be a valued member of the Air Force family, even in retirement. We wish Colonel Killian every success in her future endeavors. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand as we sing the first verse of the Air Force song located at the back of your program and remain standing as the official party departs.
Into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Down we dive, spouting our flames from under. Battle boys, give it a gun, give it a gun. Down we dive, spouting our flames from under. Off with one hell of a roar. We live in fame or without in flames. Hey, nothing can stop the U.S. Air Force.
The ceremony, thank you for attending today's celebration. Please join us for cake and punch reception in the atrium, and have a great Air Force Day.
Because when you're retiring, it doesn't give you the option